Fantasy Sports Show. You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
You are listening to the Inside Fantasy Sport Podcast. I'm your host, Supercoach Hawk, Rob Kennedy. Thanks to the Standard Squeeze, Stat Fitness 24/7, Epsom Bendigo. I'm here with the big horse, Mickie Dell. We are doing our standard sixes. We are up to the second last grouping of our positions, and we are up to the big boys, the big Rucks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, going well, mate. And I can confidently say this is one position on the footy field I never played in, being 5 foot fuck all. So let's get to it.
I love it. I must admit, I actually got thrown into the ruck. I had to be like a second ruck once, and I'm only 6'1", so let's not get too carried away either. I counted all my hit-outs, and I let all the boys know about it, how many hit-outs I got. And I put one down a guy's throat. I said, oh, mate, I'll never let him down. But, yeah, definitely not a spot for me either, mate. So this could be fun, and we'll see what we can do. To bring everybody up to speed, if you haven't listened to our defenders and our forwards, please do so. It's all about telling you who's currently in the top six for their averages in their positions, who's probably been in the top six maybe in the last 5 rounds, and who do we think you should start to consider to make those primo changes before we get to clutch time of the season. Everyone's looking to be in their head-to-head leagues, get ready for finals. Pretty much every trade you now make is the one you want to keep until the end of the year. So there's no stuffing around right now. So if you haven't, click subscribe because we're going to keep the goodness coming, and we'll dive right in. So pretty easy one with the top 6 at the moment. I'm actually going to go the top 7 because the bottom of our 7 is at 103.4 average, and then it drops under the ton. So we'll give credit where credit's due to the top 7, which is Tim English, Briggs, who's just come out of nowhere and exploded everywhere, Rowan Marshall, Jared Witts, Todd Goldstein, Sean Darcy, and Toby Nankervis. Other than Briggs, any surprises there for you?
I'm glad you used the term exploded everywhere because when I brought Briggs into my team, that's exactly what I did when he started scoring the way he did. Holy moly, he's been a revelation. So, love him. I took a risk and I traded for Briggs when Darcy did his pig string and he missed a couple of weeks. And I saw it as a bit of a risk, but there was word coming out, and we brought it up on a podcast that Stevie Johnson came out, and as we know, he's got a bit of a connection with GWS and David King as well. And they were talking about how they envisioned that Briggs was going to be the number 1 ruck. Here we are 6 weeks later. Take out last week, he's the number 1 ruckman in the competition at the moment.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, I had to take the risk. I got to a point where I actually had to trade out Tim English the last round of the bye rounds, and I hate it. I know he's going to probably stay the number 1 ruck. It wasn't about that. The best fisherman in our chat group, Trent, lets me know about it every time he scores a big score. Look, I had to make the move. And strangely, I might look at still dropping Marshall and bringing English back in. I know it's a faux pas, but we'll have a look. But it's worked out well for me so far. But, if we look at the averages there, nothing really shocked me. I would have thought Sean Darcy would be averaging a bit more. He's had a couple of off games. Sitting below, though, is a couple of people that are starting to make the jump up. Strangely enough, the next 4 ranked, if we cut to the last 5 rounds, start to really jump up into this echelon. And who I'm talking about is Riley O'Brien, Oscar McInerney, Max Gawn, Luke Jackson, and Mark Blickvas, all come into the top 8 in the last 5 round averages. Riley O'Brien is averaging 111.8 in his last 5 and 127 in his last 3.
That's nuts, isn't it?
It's
Riley
nuts.
O'Brien, we were talking about it earlier. He's probably become almost the pick of the ruckman so far.
Mate, if I told you, so if we have a look at Riley O'Brien since round 11, he's gone 124, 54, 135, 102, and 144. We're talking about good opposition too. So he even got a 99 against Tim English the week before that. So he's gone 124 against Oscar McInerney. He's gone 54 against Jared Witt. He's gone 135 against Bailey Williams, 102 against Darcy Cameron, and 144 against Todd Goldstein. Coming up, he has Essendon, GWS, Melbourne, and Port Adelaide. He's putting up big numbers.
Yeah, he could potentially go, really, really well. One thing for Riley O'Brien, though, against my boys, the Bombers, he does tend to struggle a little bit. So if you're looking to bring him in, I'd probably wait this week out. Knowing that I've said that, he's probably going to blow us out of the water, but without Draper. But I think the last 2 or 3 times he hasn't scored over 70 against Essendon. So if you're going on history, he doesn't score that well.
He's in 2.7% of teams.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right.
He burnt a lot of people earlier in the season.
Say that again?
He burnt a lot of people. He didn't score that well to start the year. It's only really been the last 7 or 8 weeks where he's really come on.
Yeah, he would have. Do you know what? He's actually done what would have killed people even worse is his first 3 weren't bad. So people would have held him. He went 102, 97, and 121. But then he went on a bad streak. So people would have trusted in it, not made the move. Then he went 70, 73, 76, and 88. And then probably people made the move, and he went at 130 against Geelong the week after that. So, mate, you talked about it when we talked about Rucks right at the start of the season when he is a roller coaster, and we know that he is. But he's the lone ruck. And I think that's the important part for us to talk about now when we look at this list. Out of these players, who are your lone rucks? English, Briggs, O'Brien, McInerney, Marshall, and probably Witts and Blickvast and Nankervis. Is that where we're at? There's big. I wouldn't be jumping
Williams, if you want to get adventurous.
Yeah. I wouldn't be jumping on. Goldie now. Because there's big word out that Cherry's
looking at coming in this week. Yeah.
Correct. Spot on. Scott Lycett's got his injury. Does your boy come back into the fold for Port Adelaide?
Yeah, I think he does. The guy that they had last week was pretty ordinary against Essendon, and that was against Flipper, Andrew Phillips, who everyone knows is our second ruckman. So if they're looking to keep their winning streak alive, I think he's got to come in.
Yeah, I'm still big ups on Mark Blickvast at 510,000. He's only in 3% of teams. His last 5 average is 101.2. His last 3 is a 95.3. He's a solid performer, and you know what you're going to get out of him. The problem is Briggs is still sitting at 497. So if you don't have Briggs, I reckon you can't go wrong with still bringing him in, to be honest.
You got to bring him in. They're talking about him being an All-Australian ruckman now. And if he's being spoken about in that company, you know that he's up there for Supercoach-wise anyway.
How many games do you have to play, do you reckon, in your opinion, to be up for All-Australian selection?
I think you'd have to play 3/4 of the year. Like for Briggs, it's probably only going to be 12 to 14 games if he plays out the season. But the impact that he's had on that side, and what are they since he started? 6-2, maybe?
Yeah,
like they've been a much better side with him in the team. So I think his positive energy, the way his tap work around the ground is so much better than Matt Flynn's as well. Braden Pruce injured. He's not relevant anymore anyway for me. He's the clear number 1.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they stick to it'll be interesting to see what they stick to in the All-Australian. They have done a lot of dual ruck positions, as in 2 rucks in the All-Australian side. I don't think anyone really stands out as that true second ruck option this year. Max Gawn's had a reasonable year, and you could always argue that he could go forward, but I don't think anyone's done enough to warrant really 2 rucks. I think Tim English stands alone as the sole All-Australian. But Briggs, if he keeps up these numbers of what he's doing, you never know. He might be a sneaky pick at the end of the year. I think he's more a talking point rather than actually getting All-Australian recognition if it was me.
I think you'll find that Maxi Gawn will probably play a little bit more forward now that Bailey Fritsch has gone in for surgery too. So if you're looking at bringing him in, he may spend more time forward.
No, really good point. Good chance that he might get some DPP, I think, as well. Max Gawn might add forward to his bow. We've talked about, I think the other one that I just want to bring up to you is we did talk about it with our forwards, is the DPP of Luke Jackson. For those that haven't listened to that episode, where's your head at with someone like Luke Jackson to finish off the year?
Not too bad, is it? Like what's his 3-round average? Nearly 102. His next 3 games, Carlton, who don't have a ruckman, so Sean Darcy and Jackson should have an absolute field day against them. Collingwood, who normally teams score well, opposition ruckmen score well against Collingwood, and Sydney, who have Hickey, who couldn't hit water out of a boat when you're talking about disposals. So there's 3 really good opportunities for Fremantle ruckmen to score really well in those games.
Beautiful. Well, that's us, mate. We've tried to keep these ones short, sharp, and to the point. We've given some names for people to think about. I don't think there's anything too crazy to do in this space. If you're still sitting with sort of your English-Marshall combo, I think you could have a really good look at dropping Marshall and bringing in a Briggs. I think having Briggs and English would be a great Great duo. It's going to get you another 60K in the bank as well to maybe make some moves, and maybe some other people that we've talked about with DPPs coming up at the same time. There's great value sitting out there with a Callum Mills at the moment. I'm sure people are going to try and raffle that up. But that's our sixes for our forwards and our rucks and our backs. We've only got the midfielders still to go. Any final words, mate?
No, that's all for the guys that purchase off the Standard Squeeze website. Insight 15, put our code in, 15% off. Quality products, you won't be disappointed. Enjoy yourselves.
Fantastic. Trade well, everybody, and we'll see you next time. This has been the Insight Fantasy Sport Podcast. Peace out.
See ya.